Stop waiting for success to find you. It doesn't magically happen. Build it with clarity, structure, and strategy on purpose. Welcome back to the Industrially Organized podcast, where we cut through the corporate buzzword crap and look at the actual science of how we work. I'm your host, Nicole, and today we're putting the term quiet quitting under the microscope. We're going to look past the media panic and explain what is actually happening. It's a massive systemic breach of the psychological contract and the rapid withdrawal of discretionary effort. And that was a lot of words. And what do I mean by that? Well, picture this. It's 5 p.m. on a Tuesday. An employee, maybe it's you, finishes their last email, shuts their laptop, and goes straight home. They don't check Slack on their phone during dinner. They don't volunteer to take on that stretch project over the weekend. They do exactly what is written in their job description and absolutely nothing more. If you have read the headlines over the last few years, this employee is part of a malicious, lazy trend destroying the modern workforce. They are quiet quitting. But if you look at this through the lens of industrial organizational psychology, by stripping away that you will see a very different story. Quiet quitting is not a new phenomenon invented by Gen Z. It is a highly rational, already had a name response. It was called to a broken system. And it's an industrial action where employees do exactly the minimum required by the rules of their employment contract and precisely zero more, usually to protest poor working conditions. It's a psychological reaction to a deep breakdown in the employee-employer relationship. What the media has called quiet quitting is simply an individual, uncoordinated version of working to rule. And the quiet quitting panic from management reveals a deeply uncomfortable truth about modern business. And that's many organizations have built their profit models entirely on the assumption that employees will do free, uncompensated labor. They expect people to answer emails at 9 p.m., take on the workload of 2 laid off colleagues, and constantly go above and beyond without any structural reward for doing so. When employees suddenly decide to enforce the actual boundaries of their employment contract, the system buckles and immediately the employee becomes the bad guy and is vulnerable. And if I'm being completely honest with you, it kind of pisses me off when leadership call people lazy for not giving the company free labor. To understand why this is happening now, we have to talk about a foundational IO psychology concept, and that is the psychological contract. When you accept a job, you sign a legal written contract, and it says you will work 40 hours a week doing X, and we will pay you Y. But simultaneously, you form a psychological contract. This is the set of unwritten, implicit expectations between you and your employer. Historically, the psychological contract looked like this. If I am loyal to this company, work late, and give you my best ideas, you will take care of me. You will give me job security, annual raises that beat inflation, and a clear path for promotion. And this is not a new term. The psychological contract theory was introduced to us in the 1960s by an organizational theorist named Chris Argyris. Later on in the 1980s, another organizational psychologist, Denise Rousseau, started researching this theory as well. And her research specifically emphasized the importance of aligning expectations between both employers and employees for a healthy work environment. When the organization lives up to its side of the psychological contract, employees feel like they can trust the organization, which pushes them to commit to the company, which then leads to high job satisfaction and stellar performance. But over the last 2 decades, organizations have systematically shredded their end of that deal. We've seen massive layoffs during years of record corporate profits. We've seen inflation severely outpace the standard 2 to 3% annual raises. We've seen companies consistently hire external candidates for leadership roles rather than promoting from within. The unfortunate rude awakening that needs to happen here is companies need to stop punishing their current employees for being loyal. Like, what do you expect is going to happen when you consistently give rewards to the new hires and make the loyal employees feel like all of their hard work was for nothing? If a company doesn't give loyalty, then why would they ever expect to receive it? When an employee realizes that going above and beyond no longer leads to job security or reward, they experience a psychological contract breach. The trust is broken, and human beings are highly adaptive. When the unwritten deal is voided, employees recalibrate. They retreat to the safety of the written contract. You pay me for 40 hours of baseline work, so that is exactly what you will get. And all of a sudden, that means that they are lazy and are probably on their way to seeing a PIP in their near future. In IO psychology, the energy an employee chooses to give beyond the minimum is called discretionary effort. It is the holy grail of employee engagement. It's the engineer who solves a coding bug in the shower because they care about the product. It's the retail worker who spends an extra 10 minutes helping a stressed customer. You cannot mandate discretionary effort. You cannot put it in a job description. It's a gift that the employee voluntarily gives to an organization when they feel valued, supported, and fairly compensated. Quiet quitting is simply the evaporation of discretionary effort. When leaders complain that their team is quiet quitting, what they're really saying is my employees are no longer volunteering their discretionary effort, and I am angry about it. But you cannot demand a gift. Who do you think you are? If your company culture is fueled by burnout and stagnant wages, you have created an environment where discretionary effort cannot survive. If you are constantly hiring the next best thing for jobs that your internal employees have been working their butts off to be given, you can expect for productivity to plummet. And don't you dare have the audacity to use that as the perfect reason as to why hiring externally is the answer. No, You need to sit back and look at the train wreck you are causing. And before you say, but Nicole, some people are lazy and some people do need PIPs. I know that. I've done the written warnings, the terminations, the PIPs before. I was in HR for over 20 years. But I'm talking about the people that are being put in the quiet quitters category. So, if you are a manager and you sense your team or one of your high performers is stepping back and working strictly to rule, how do you fix it? Well, you don't do it with pizza parties, and you certainly don't do it by threatening them. You do it by renegotiating that contract. Here are 3 steps to help you address the root cause of quiet quitting. First, audit your job descriptions. Are you paying for the job you are actually asking people to do? If an employee's role has slowly absorbed the duties of 3 other people over the last 2 years, you need to adjust their title and their compensation. Stop relying on scope creep. The second thing is reward the above and beyond. If you want extraordinary effort, provide extraordinary rewards. And what you think is extraordinary really probably isn't what the employee is expecting. But if an employee grinds to launch a project early, give them an extra week of PTO. If they take on a stretch role, give them a spot bonus. Connect the extra effort directly to a tangible reward. The third thing, explicitly respect boundaries. The best way to build trust is to enforce it from the top down. As a leader, schedule your emails to send during business hours. Visibly log off at 5 p.m. When you show your team that you respect their time, you begin to repair the psychological contract. So, IOers, quiet quitting is a terrible name for a perfectly rational behavior. When we stop viewing it as a generational flaw and start viewing it as a symptom of a broken psychological contract, we can actually start solving the problem. Engagement isn't something you can force out of people. It's something you have to earn. Thank you for joining me on Industrially Organized. If you found this breakdown helpful, please subscribe, follow, and share this episode with anyone trying to understand the modern workforce. Until next time, please remember, respect the contract, value your team's time, and stay industrially organized.